This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, we find out what you have been telling Lieutenant Governor Shelia Simons on her rural listening tour. And beware, pink slime is fighting back. And they live in a penthouse apartment with a spectacular view. They have 3 children, and their lives are broadcast 24 hours a day. And no, they're not the Kardashians. All that and much more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. This week we've seen planting galore, then concerns about soil moisture, and now freeze reports. What's next? Well, congratulations. It's officially the start of the planting season, and the NASS reports that 17% of planned corn has been planted already. And as you might have guessed, we're well ahead of the 5-year average and the last year's soggy spring. Now, if you're curious, Indiana reports 6% planted, while Iowa is way behind with only 1% of corn planted. Now, many daring souls to our south are even further ahead, and the warm weather and the April 6th crop insurance day prompted the rest of us to get moving. But now we have to keep our fingers crossed that we don't grow pre-frozen corn. Those Canadians and their cold air keep pushing south, and we've had a freeze warning first on Monday in northwestern Illinois, and then on Tuesday it went down to I-74, and by Wednesday the freeze watch reached the entire length of the state all the way down to the Ohio River. With all that going on, it's enough to make you want to scream. Well, how about talk about it at least? And to someone who just might be able to do something to help farmers out. That's what hundreds of rural Illinoisans have done so far this spring. Talking to Lieutenant Governor Shelia Simons, who is traveling around the state on her rural listening tour. I had a chance to visit with her on Thursday and found out what she's been hearing. You've been going on this rural listening tour to many places around the state, and I'm interested in finding out what have you been hearing what are people talking about? What are the concerns you've been hearing from rural communities?
Yeah, it's real interesting. It's been very useful to us, to me and the folks in my office, to find out what the needs are, what the passions are, and I would hesitate to say that there's one even picture of rural life in Illinois, because there's so many different territories, different considerations. Just the difference in the land makes a big difference in agriculture as a business from central Illinois to southern Illinois. So, for example, when we met in Peoria, there was a lot of interest in large production farming. When we were meeting in southern Illinois, folks who are involved in wineries and orchards are there. So different territories, different cultures. So there's not such a thing as a monolithic rural Illinois, but there are some concerns that are shared by people even in these different regions. Concerns about what do we do about population declining? How do we keep our kids in the area? How do we make sure, I think probably the number one concern is, how do we make sure that we have jobs in rural Illinois that our kids can come home to?
Okay. Well, there are 2 major businesses, or 2 types of businesses in this area. It's manufacturing and it's agriculture. Okay. Both of those have different demands. Both of those have different needs. What have you been hearing, or what have people been asking the state in particular to do to help those segments?
It's interesting because one of the answers is common to both of those, and that is a need for doing a better job in terms of math education in the state. And
why math?
Yes. Well, because it is increasingly common to what we do. When we talk about manufacturing, this is not grandma and grandpa's manufacturing anymore. Manufacturing now involves being at a computer terminal and controlling operations at several different machines and having to have an understanding of enough computer knowledge and the math that's involved there to be able to say this machine is operating within tolerances this is not, here's how I can fix it. And agriculture is increasingly moving in that same direction. It's not my father-in-law is a farmer in Randolph County, Illinois, and he has a couple of tractors that are old enough that I know how to drive them.
Turtle and Bunny.
Yeah, there you go. And the more current machines are highly technical. These are not things that you stop and you fix in the middle of the field when you got a choke up, right?
Yeah,
this is a different kind of agriculture in many ways. And the needs for a better math program also fit with what we're hearing from the community colleges, which say that far too many students are arriving in college not ready for college level math. So if we can do a better job of connecting up high schools, community colleges, four-year schools, and employers in terms of math, we're going to be having a little bit of an edge as a state.
Now, this leads into the question that is cross-categorical. Infrastructure concerns in downstate Illinois are particularly troublesome. Okay, you need roads to move the things across. You need. We are behind in various technological aspects. The schools are funded by farmland, and nobody wants the property taxes, touched one iota. Nobody wants to lose their local schools, so consolidation seems to be an answer, but it's not really, because if we want the children to stay here, in the communities, we want to create communities. What do we do about infrastructure?
Yeah. Infrastructure is something that has come up at every one of these listening posts. It's certainly an important thing to consider and hard to juggle at a time when our state budget is not doing very well, at a time when federal transportation funds are not where we'd like to see them. So we have to be smarter about how we engage in that infrastructure planning. We also have to make sure that we include access to the internet as a part of that infrastructure combination, and that's been coming up at all these listening posts too. That to have the school and to have access to everything that you want to have, you want to make sure that every community's got access to the web. So those are all sorts of things that we've been looking at. We don't have any magic wand answers, but the listening posts have helped us to focus in on some of those issues. You mentioned school consolidation. I'm chairing a commission that'll have a draft report out on Tuesday, where we've been looking at that issue and trying to focus on not just consolidation as an end, but focus on efficient use of taxpayer dollars in schools and opportunity for everyone, no matter how big or small your school is. Because there are some places that are, if you're consolidated into a county-wide school, I don't want you to consolidate any more than that. I think that's plenty big. But I'd like you to be able to take advantage of a class that's offered in the next county over for your advanced biology students. I'd like to be able to have you buy health insurance in a statewide pool so that everyone pays a little bit less, so that there are ways that we can look at what we've been calling it as virtual consolidation, so we get the best of both local board control over our school systems, but the ability to share and get some financial edge from working with other school districts.
One last question, and thank you for your time here. The politics seems to be very polarizing at the moment. We have Chicago versus downstate. We have Republicans versus Democrats. We have, we got to raise taxes to over my dead body. Okay. How do we come to a sensible consensus over tough issues where name calling is the immediate response on a lot of cases?
Yeah. Well, I think the answer is folks who are watching a news show like yours are the folks who are going to demand that and need to demand that. I think we also have to be smart, and I say this as someone from deep southern Illinois, about where we isolate ourselves and where we build alliances. In southern Illinois, we often say we're missing out on this or that, but if we were smart enough to make an alliance with other people who don't come from wealthy areas, we'd have a big coalition and we'd be able to make some positive change for the state. So That's what I see as one of my roles as Lieutenant Governor, is to help people build those connections across the state that will unite us more than divide us.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
In 1986, traces of a chemical known to most people as alar was found in applesauce and apple juice. The chemical was used to regulate fruit growth, enhance the color of the fruit, and to make harvesting easier. Well, long story short, group petitioned the EPA to ban alar, citing the average child was exposed to extremely high levels and it could cause cancer. Big splash in the news, 60 Minutes reported, apple growers sued a bunch of people saying it wasn't true. As it turned out, both sides had points, but the risks were highly exaggerated. The apple growers and the companies that made alar was not prepared, and eventually alar was banned for human consumption. Jump ahead to now. Bet you never heard of pink slime until just a couple of weeks ago, did you? Well, Stu Ellis joins me now. He is the director of Ag Engage, the creator of FarmGate blog, a longtime farm broadcaster and former extension person, not to mention the farm guy on WAND's morning show. Thank you for joining us today, Stu. Last week, you wrote an opinion piece that I read in the Decatur Herald and Review called What's the Big Deal About Pink Slime? First of all, for those of you out there who are repulsed by the name, why don't you tell us, Stu, what pink slime is?
Well, that's a name that's kind of become part of the vernacular, particularly in metropolitan areas and large areas that's not real complimentary to an all beef product that's really very important to the livestock industry and the cattle industry. The pink slime moniker was given to something that's officially called lean, finely textured beef.
Okay, so it's beef product, right?
It is a beef product. It's an all protein beef product. There's no fat to it at all.
Okay.
And it's
what cuts of the beef is this?
Well, it is some fine trimmings that will come when you cut the steaks and the chops and the prime parts of a beef animal. When you take those out, there's a lot of little pieces that are left. Let's say you have a T-bone steak on your plate, and you know it's got some marbling in it,
right?
And there may be you're cutting off some of the fat, which a lot of people will do. There may be a little piece of a muscle that goes through there, and it may be put to the side on your plate. But it's those types of pieces that a beef processor, a packing plant, will pick up, will convert into an all protein product, and then that is then available to be used as part of hamburger.
Okay.
And so you've been eating it for many, many years.
Probably, and enjoying it. So how did the name pink slime get into the vernacular? And if it's not bad for us, why are we freaking out about it? Why are some people freaking out about it?
Well, it all came about when a federal meat scientist just happened to use that term many years ago in an internal memo.
Okay.
And the product had been approved by the USDA to go into hamburger. The scientist, who now says that, well, it would probably he kind of really regrets using that term because it was picked up through a Freedom of Information Act.
Of course.
The media says, hey, this is a neat term, I'm going to make a lot of headlines out of it. And of course, pink slime makes a better term in a headline than lean, finely textured beef. And so many folks who are, and have an anti-meat agenda or an anti-livestock or anti-animal agenda, pro-animal agenda, something like that, have really grabbed onto this and said we can make a lot of headway in convincing people that they should stay away from meat, and so that's what's really happened. It's just been more of a a marketing gimmick for them than anything else.
That's what I was going to get to. It seems to me that this is very similar to the ALR scare, in so much as the apple producers and the industry that made ALR was not prepared for this controversy. This came out of the blue, right? For the meat packers.
Very much out of the blue. Came about a month or a few weeks back, and it's been the rage. A lot of people know about it. A lot of people are staying away from hamburger, from beef, and because of that, the beef market has really softened. When you see that nearby cattle futures have declined $12 to $15 per hundred over the past month, fed cattle prices have gone down about $8. Why you think, what's happened here? And a lot of that can be attributed to this controversy about what they call pink slime. That's really finely textured lean beef.
So, what was the reasoning for? I think I understand, but can you tell me what was the reasoning for adding this finely textured beef into hamburger and other meat products?
Really, since it is a full protein product, there's no fat. The fat has been removed from it. It goes back into the hamburger and makes hamburger more lean.
Okay.
In fact, if you do not put it in the hamburger, as some school districts have said, as some grocery stores have said, we don't want that. Well, the hamburger turns out to be a higher fat product.
Oh my!
When you have it in the hamburger, it's a lower fat product.
Okay. So actually, obviously, people are beginning to get the word out about this, trying to control. It's not as if the meatpacking industry has never had any issues that were concerning, so it's not like they're a totally sympathetic group right now. But what can be done to try and at least educate and get this discussion out in the open?
Well, there were a group of governors a few days back who toured one of these beef processing plants, and I think one of the catchphrases of that day was, "Hey, dude, it's all beef," and I think it's a matter of the industry, and the industry being the beef processing industry, the cattlemen's industry, and all of agriculture, really, getting together and say, hey, this is a beef product. You've been eating it for many years. It's been approved by the USDA to be added to hamburger. There's nothing wrong with it. It actually reduces the fat content in it, and nobody has been hurt by it. It's going to take a marketing campaign, and I think several members of Congress have already indicated they're going to hold a hearing to determine who came up with this this pink slime, and not really targeting at this particular food scientist, but really targeted at the media for saying, hey, you've done a lot of damage to a good industry.
Well, as in many cases, good reporting is hard to find. Lesson number one, I think, is be careful what you put in your memos. And lesson number two is something can hit an industry from any direction, correct?
That's correct. And I think every industry, no matter what it is, needs to be aware that they're of good crisis management. And this is right now crisis, and it needs to be managed.
Yep.
There are ways to do it, and it should be, that effort should be launched in a hurry.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Stu.
I'm delighted. Thank you.
Today we're here with Steve Hilberg from CoCoRaHS, a state coordinator, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how you can participate in weather observations. Steve, welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate it.
What is CoCoRaHS?
Well, that is an acronym for the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. And what it is a collection of, it's a group of people from around the country, 10,000 strong now, that make rainfall observations in their own backyards. And we have about 500 active observers here in Illinois, always looking for more. But it's a very interesting project because they're all volunteers and from all walks of life.
Okay, who can participate in this organization?
Anybody can. We actually have kids as young as 8 years old and folks as old as 85 doing this on a regular basis. So it really appeals to a broad interest of people. And if you have any kind of interest in the weather and how it affects people, it's a great way to make a difference.
How important is this organization to the community, to the nation?
It's really developed quite a bit. In the last 5 years, it's gone from roughly 13 states participating to the entire country and has now expanded into Canada. Wow. So what the CoCoRaHS observations do is help supplement the quote official observations that the National Weather Service collects, and it more than doubles the amount of rainfall observations we have in the country. And this is very useful for anybody who has any stake in rainfall, including farmers, water managers, emergency managers, just about any walk of life, including the National Weather Service.
Okay. Now, I'm sure that people are thinking, do I have to have a meteorology degree or an atmospheric science degree to do this?
No, in fact, very few people have and that kind of a degree. It's anybody with an interest in weather or in rainfall. And as I said, we have folks from all walks of life, and anybody who's just got that interest and wants to help out can do it. And it really does make a difference. This isn't just we do it to do it. This actually is used by a lot of people and more every day.
Okay. What is the usual time period that a person can participate? Short term, long term?
We tell people that it would be great if you could participate for one season. We don't really define that season, but here in Illinois, for example, our rainy season, so to speak, is the spring through the early fall. That's when we get most of our rain. So we would love people to participate at least a year if they can. There is no requirement. We have some folks that have been going since the day we started, which was in December 1st of 2006, and have hardly missed an observation.
Oh, wow. That's
so, and there's quite a few that have been in that boat and have not missed an observation since they started, and others lose interest after a little while or realize it's not for them. But it's very interesting because you can actually see your observations on a map and how you compare to everyone else.
That's cool. So what are the daily duties?
Actually, very simple. We have each observer has a rain gauge, a standard 4-inch rain gauge about this big around, and they're asked to go out once a day and take a measurement off of that rain gauge and then report it on a website, and that's it. Typically, it takes no more than 5 or 10 minutes, if that.
Okay. Is there storm chasing involved?
No, we're not storm chasers, and we're not technically storm spotters. CoCoRaHS observers do have an opportunity to submit reports, for example, on large hail or high winds and other significant weather that occurs, but we don't encourage people to go out and, quote, chase storms, and we don't really ask them to be a storm spotter, but to report what they see from their home locations.
Okay, so the information they provide when storms blow through, it's going right to National Weather Service to help
Right. We have several reports that observers can file. For example, if somebody observes golf ball size hail, they can get online and submit that report, and that not only gets transmitted to CoCoRaHS, but it gets transmitted to the local National Weather Service office as well immediately. So they have that report. And that's been a big boon to the Weather Service because they have access to a lot more reports because there are quite a few CoCoRaHS observers.
Okay, and so if someone wants to participate in this, who do they contact?
Well, it's really fairly easy. There's a nice website at www.CoCoRaHS.org. And that's CoCoRaHS. It's a big mouthful, but you could also Google that. And then there's just a simple form you sign up with, and once you sign up, you'll be contacted, usually by me, with some information. And once you have your rain gauge, you're off you can start participating. So it's very easy.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, there you have it. CoCoRaHS, an observation program for you, the simple volunteer. Thank you.
And finally, a friend of mine noticed my affinity towards bald eagles, and not for obvious reasons. This friend directed me to a fun little website, more of a webcam really. To find it, get on the Google machine and type in CoCoRaHS Eagles, D-E-C-O-R-A-H Eagles. A nonprofit group specializing in preservation of falcons, eagles, and hawks found an eagle's nest near the north central Iowa town of Decorah. And somehow, I really mean somehow, they managed to put a camera looking down on it nearby. That was 12 years ago. Oh, and about 100 million views ago. Well, this spring, 3 eaglets were hatched, and Mom and Dad are busy raising a frustrating and demanding crew. And don't tell Hollywood, because the average viewing time on the website is 6 hours and 10 minutes. Well, that's it for this week. Work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.